Hello, my name is Brody McGowan, and this is another episode of the Forthefans Podcast. Today we have on here my good friend Cody Klung-Seth. Cody is a Miami Dolphins fan from South Dakota.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's just kind of an interesting combination because if you're not aware, Miami and South Dakota are two places that are not very close to one another, not very close in culture. It's just kind of a whole big difference between those two places, I feel like. So let's get into this, if you're good with that.
Yeah.
So how did you become a Miami Dolphins fan from South Dakota?
Well, pretty much started in third grade. We had like an auction of stuff at the end of my year for third grade, and I had some money left. I liked the colors for the Dolphins, and I bought with my auction money from the class my package. It was like a package from the Dolphins, so that's kind of how I became a Dolphins fan. I liked the colors, and then got in third grade, and I've stuck with it ever since then.
Wait, so the Dolphins sent you a package up to...
Yeah, we wrote letters
South Dakota?
to different companies. I wrote one to J.K. Rowling.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we wrote letters to different companies, and they sent us crap.
And so the Dolphins...
The Dolphins sent us stuff, yeah.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I wish actually in that situation get free gear and stuff, but what I can say about that is that's certainly interesting. With me, I can't even lie. Some of my fandoms were just me liking the color.
Yeah.
More involved with the team. So I can definitely vibe with that on an emotional level. But so the big new questions are coming in. A lot of this is about the coaching and questions at the front office. So let's just start off with this. What do you think about Mike McDaniel?
I think Mike McDaniel, I think he'll be a really good coach. Offensively, he's built a good offense in San Francisco, utilizes Debo like no one's ever seen before. He's really smart, his press conferences. He's an absolute genius. He knows all the X's and O's. He's charismatic, he's funny, so and all of his former players said they liked playing for him, so I got high expectations that he's going to be able to revitalize the offense and lead a winning team.
Yeah, no, I mean definitely, because Mike McDaniel, he came over from that San Francisco system, which is known for running very, very good offensive systems that get people involved. For me, he seems like the nerdy type of guy where it's his team's either going to be great or they're not going to be great. I don't know why. I feel like his just nerdiness, that's either going to be conducive to a good locker room, or it's just people are just look at this nerd. What's he out here doing? But, I mean, then again, Cooper Kupp is consistently a nerd in the Super Bowl, so what else can I argue about that? So with that, the big question in the room, should the Dolphins have fired Brian Flores?
Well, I mean, it kind of, what it seems like they came from is Flores and the GM, Greer. They didn't get along with stuff. Flores and Tua had some issues together. So it wasn't anything on the field. They fired Flores more off of clashing with other personalities in the organization that they chose over him. So from that point of view, you can't really be upset about it. He is one of the best young coaches in the league, built an amazing defense, hoping that doesn't suffer. But if it was because he didn't work together well with other parts in the front office, you can't really be super upset about it.
I can understand that because I feel like that's not a perspective to the Flores thing that a lot of people are bringing up here. Because on the field, every single thing about Flores says that he's this great coach who clearly is doing very, very well.
Yeah.
I would say the one thing that I could say would be if it is issues off the field, then that would explain a good amount as to why they fired him.
Yeah.
So with that, one of the guys who clashed with Flores was the owner, Stephen Ross. So, I mean, I feel like he's kind of a controversial figure in Miami when it comes to if people like him or not.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on Ross?
I don't know a whole lot about Ross. Not a fan from what I know of. It's kind of especially now, all the things coming out with trying to pay Flores to tank, or trying to pay him a non-disclosure agreement to not talk about getting paid to tank, and just kind of that shady stuff where it's tanking's a part of the game and it gives us a better draft pick, but for pretty much penalizing our coach for wanting to win football games it's a bad look as a fan. It's a bad look for the organization.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. I feel like with the Steelers in particular, it's like their whole thing is never tank, never tank, never tank. But it's like it is those like shady deals that go in and with like like the stuff that they're doing behind the scenes, where it's like I don't feel like a respectful general manager pays off the team to tank games, openly hurting their jobs and their idea to come back. So with that, do you not like him due to football or non-football reasons?
I mean, it's kind of both. Like how he treated Flores, that kind of falls into both areas. But like on the football field, obviously, it hasn't been a winning team since when I've been a fan. It hasn't been a winning team since Dan Marino was the quarterback.
You did have that one year where Jay tore everyone up.
Jay tore everyone up, and Tannehill tore his ACL, which that would have been a promising year. But other than that, Ross just hasn't made a successful team. And then if off the field he's asking to lose by incentivizing losing, and all these other allegations coming out against him that are just not a great look, not great for the sport.
Yeah, I feel like one thing about winning is in general, if your team creates a culture of losing, it's harder to break that. Even if it is like tanking, like even in basketball, like you can get the star players in there, but if they're used to losing games, then they're going to keep on losing games. Versus if you say from the jump, what we want to do is win, then they will probably win more games, which is where you give respect to Flores. Because Ross told them, like, we want you to lose games. And Flores was like, screw you.
Yeah.
He was like, and then they won a couple games towards the end of that 2018 season.
Yeah.
All in the beginning, they decided to run that full-out blitz on Deontay Johnson because they almost lost to Pittsburgh. But let's get on to some of the roster, because I feel like when you talk about Miami, a lot of it does kind of have to do with the actual team, not just like the people who are, the people who are physically on the field.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying. So I was looking for just a couple controversial topics about the Dolphins, and I've come across one major one, which is the quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. They tried to tank for Tua that one year, and that was the whole goal. And they didn't. And then Joe Burrow jumped over him in the draft order, but they still ended up getting Tua. So even though they won a couple games late, they looked like they were in the best situation. But Tua's been mediocre at best so far. I would feel like would be pretty much how I would describe his career so far. So do you think he's good?
Personally, I do think that Tua is good and can be a good quarterback. Because even though statistically his stats haven't been amazing, but the one thing that he has done as a quarterback is he's won games. In his 2 years as starting quarterback, he's had 2 winning records. And even though statistically he might not look great, I could see him kind of on the lines of a Jimmy Garoppolo, Joe Flacco, Kirk Cousins, where they're not top tier quarterbacks, but they win games and they give you a competitive team.
True. That definitely makes sense with that. So then with that, is he the future? Because I feel like with a lot of these dominant quarterbacks in the AFC right now, it's essentially in order to win the Super Bowl without getting incredibly lucky, you have to go through those guys.
Yeah.
And that either means A, shut them down, or B, outscore them. And in reality, it's like you got it. And I'm talking like the Allens, the Mahomes, the Herberts, and the Burrows, and even the Lamar Jacksons to a lesser extent at this point. But do you think Tua could eventually get to the point, like if he had that around him, that he could possibly take out 1 or 2 of those guys?
I think
essentially, is he the future planet quarterback?
I think it's possible. I mean, there's a reason he went number 5 overall, was heralded as the savior even from the time when he was at Alabama. So I think it's there. I think I don't know if he's never gonna get to the level of a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes. So I think his ceiling is probably like one of those lower end top quarterbacks, like a Derek Carr,
like
Kirk Cousins.
Roethlisberger?
Yeah, like a Ben Roethlisberger, where he's not flashy face of the NFL type guy, but he gives his chance a team to win, or his good team a chance to win. And so whether he's the future or not, it's tough. He hasn't had a great offense around him yet, so I think that'll make a big difference. And as of right now, at least for this next season, there's no one, unless you end up trading for someone such as Aaron Rodgers. You have no one. You're not going to replace him with someone young. You're not going to draft a quarterback this year to replace him.
Yeah, the quarterbacks this year, that's a whole other conversation with this year's draft. Is the quarterbacks in this draft, I just don't think are good.
They're really.
I'm a Steelers fan, so we're also here looking at quarterbacks. Yeah, I think if the Steelers draft a quarterback this year, I don't care who it is. I think it's a bad move.
Mistake.
So I just don't think I think Tua has endless more potential.
Yeah.
Heck, I think Mitch Trubisky has more potential than quarterbacks in this year's draft.
Yeah.
That's who I want for Pittsburgh, but that's not really a conversation that we're going to be having right now. But I think with those quarterbacks not being good, unless you're trading for a top flight guy.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Are you opposed to that?
If Aaron Rodgers wants to come to Miami and isn't a horrible and he's gonna be there for a couple of years, 2-3 years, then there's if it's Aaron Rodgers, you pull the trigger on him. He's back-to-back MVPs. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the game right now. So having him on your team makes you an instant contender no matter where you are. And so yeah, Russell Wilson probably pretty similar the same way. He depends more on the price tag because he hasn't been as dominant. But I mean, if that quarterback's available and wants to come to Miami, it shouldn't be shut out as an option.
That makes sense. So let's go into some positives and some negatives of this roster so that we can fully divulge into what we actually think about the team as a whole. So positives, it seems like the number one thing, and even the national media raves about this all the time, and they don't rave about much unless you're the Cowboys. But
Cowboys or the Patriots.
The Cowboys or the Patriots is the defense.
Yeah.
So Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, two first and second year safeties who are dominant, make a really, really good secondary. That if you were to do battle with Mahomes and you were able to get the offense up, they might be able to put up that fight.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you would say about that secondary?
I mean, it's just the pairing of Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, what they do, that's what makes the defense run. Is that more than any other team in the league, they run zero coverage, so they have no safety help over the top. It's all just man-to-man. They're able to do that because Byron Jones and Xavier Howard are good enough that they can man-to-man cover and not let their guy get over their heads and not give up a deep touchdown, which allows their safeties to cover the tight ends into blitz, which they have some of the best blitzing safeties in the league. So that's extra pressure on the quarterback every single play just because of how dominant the corners are.
That would make sense. Then, are there any other points you would need to make about any other points along the defense?
For the defense, run game needs to improve. Our run defense has been bad. Pass defense has been good. The D line is actually up and coming. Actually, Emmanuel Ogbah has been pretty dominant at one end, then the rookie Jalen Phillips on the other side. And in the middle, Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer. They're not big names, but Wilkins actually tied the record for most tackles by an interior defensive lineman in the NFL history this last year.
And Zach Sealer was rated third.
Yeah.
Right behind Cameron Hayward.
Of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Of my Steelers. Let's go Steelers. But right behind Cameron Hayward along the D line, which is definitely elite. And then along the offense, to my understanding, there's not much.
Yeah.
But Jalen Waddle has been, for the amount that they traded up to get him, what do you think about him as a whole?
He's got a lot of potential. The way he's being used is a lot different. Alabama, he ran deep. In Miami, he's running 5-yard routes and just hoping for a catch and run situation, which that's what hopefully he can open up to his game. But obviously a lot of potential with the Waddle. Hopefully they handle him right. Hopefully the situation might not be the best for him personally, I think. But
with the quarterback situation.
with the quarterback situation, the team situation, the play style they have, because he is such a deep threat that they don't utilize him like that. But he's got all the potential in the world.
So, are there any other positives that you would say when you think about this team?
That's most of it. We have a good kicker in Sanders, usually a good kicker.
That's always helpful.
Yeah, that's about. It's pretty much the defense. The defense wins them all the games.
So now let's get to the negatives, because I feel like in order to understand the positives, you have to put them with the negatives. Because if there were only positives, you guys would have been hosting up the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
But with that, let's talk about some negatives. What it comes down to my knowledge, is it's pretty much just the offense.
On the entire offense.
So let's start with the offensive line.
Yeah, offensive line's bad. They're young. So they all have potential. In the last 2 years, they've drafted 4 offensive linemen who have started. One of them's looked like average to slightly above average. The other 3 have been pretty terrible. So, besides Robert Hunt, the other 3 young linemen are bad.
Was Robert Hunt the dude who almost scored?
Yeah, he's the dude who did the flip. Yeah.
Shout out Robert Hunt.
Shout out Robert Hunt.
That dude's a legend.
Yeah. And like our other lineman, our center was bad. Our left tackle, Jesse Davis, was worst in the league. Like some of the most penalties, most sacks given up in the league. Like
it just needs to be improved.
If it's not improved, this team can't go anywhere more than they're at now, and that's just how it is.
What about Tua?
Tua's interesting because it's hard without an O-line to see what he can do. Obviously, he's got a lot of negatives. He doesn't have a strong arm. Decision-making needs work. He hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been great his first 2 years. So
it's kind of just the running core.
The running core.
Backs.
They don't have a running core right now. Their top guy coming back from last year, like Myles Gaskin was the starter. The top guy they're probably most excited about returning is probably Duke Johnson, who's been bouncing around the league and hasn't done much.
He's a journeyman.
Yeah.
So there's just no real running game there.
At all.
And then every wide receiver not named Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
Is what I would basically understand.
Yeah, Jalen Waddle's really good. Obviously, Devontae Parker, I think when he's healthy, he's underrated. He's just happens to almost always have hamstring issues and be hurt.
Yeah.
And then other than that, they don't have any other big name wideouts at all.
Okay, so then that makes sense. So then now the next thing that's going to come up alongside us would be free agency.
Yeah.
So what I have to ask is, you guys have a couple of free agents. The first thing that I would say is that pretty much of you guys have so much cap space. So there's not a lot of guys who I feel like you guys are going to be like, let go of him.
Yeah.
For you guys, it's like anybody who wants to come back can come back. Like, this is different than the Jets video that we had earlier. Because with the Jets, it was like, we have a decent amount of cap space, and I don't want to spend it all. The Dolphins, it's different.
Yeah.
They'll pay up for their guys, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's like they're different in the extent where, like, they are going to want to bring back their guys, and this is not the Jets. And it's also not a team like the Steelers where you're picking and choosing these guys are going to go. Anybody who you can bring back, bring back.
Yeah.
Is that how you basically describe your free agency perspective?
And that's how it should be. Obviously, number one priority for returning guys, Emmanuel Ogbah has anchored the defense as the DN. He's got 9 sacks, 9 or more each of the last 2 years. And his number one priority. Then there's Mike Gesicki. Yeah, so Gesicki, obviously, really good receiving tight end. He works really well with Tua in the middle of the field, usually. The problem with him is he can't block someone to save his life. He's pretty much a big wide receiver. He brings nothing to the table blocking, and if he brings home a decent price tag, he might be a guy they don't re-sign because a priority in Mike McDaniel's offense is obviously he's big on the running game. He always has been, and if you have a tight end that can't block, that doesn't fit.
That is very, very true. So it's, yeah, because I feel like if you have tight ends who can't block, I can talk from experience about this, but
Yeah.
But if you have a tight end who can't block, then if you bring that guy out there, they almost know that you're throwing the ball.
Yeah.
So, like, that becomes an issue for the offense.
Yeah.
I never knew that Gesicki was such a bad blocker. But if that is the case, then, like, and some team, like, I don't know who would overpay for his services.
No.
But I could see someone being like, I'm going to go give him $12 million.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just like Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron kept getting good-sized contracts to go score touchdowns
Yeah.
without being able to block. So
Yeah, it's like maybe Gesicki will probably do the same. It's like if someone gives us, I think like this, people see Gesicki as being better than Ebron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly because of the blocks, but I feel like that's definitely an interesting one. Are there any other guys who you're like 100% resign?
It might just be a fan favorite, but wide receiver Mac Hollins. Offensively, like at the wide receiver position, he doesn't provide a lot. He can be a deep threat. He's got a big body, but really, he's really good on special teams. Kind of like Matthew Slater with the Patriots is kind of what Mac Hollins is with the Dolphins. If a punt gets downed, it's him every single time. If there's a tackle on a kickoff, it's him half the time. He's just one of those guys.
Yeah, so there's nobody who you're like, get off my team.
No, there's not really anyone that's
because
awful.
you guys have the you guys are lucky. You guys got the money.
Oh yeah.
So with that, like again, there's the most cap space in the room. So now we get to talk about guys who you want to bring in. So let's have that conversation. So what is the number one position?
Offensive tackle.
Offensive tackle. So then give me some names.
Yeah. Teron Armstead from the Saints is probably number one. He's been one of the best tackles in the league for years. Orlando Brown from the Chiefs. Or Trent Brown from the Patriots. Those are probably the top three tackles on the market. And really, with the cap space the Dolphins have and the up-and-coming team, if they don't land one of them, it's probably a failure for the front office.
The only thing about some of those guys is some of those guys may be on their older years.
That's also true.
Which is something that like I would be a little bit like Armstead in particular.
Yeah.
Because it's like I feel like if you're trying to land a guy with the direction of the Dolphins, it might be better to go younger.
That's true.
Which is why I'd probably say the best guy on that list would be Orlando Brown because of his youth and the fact that he could be around for a long time. Also, I think Kansas City is going to have some trouble re-signing some guys.
That's
so you
true.
discussed the weakness at wide receiver. Any ways that you want to fix that?
Well, biggest name on the market, if he becomes available, a lot of it depends on if Rodgers stays in Green Bay or not, would be Devontae Adams, best wideout on the market. Dolphins are one of the few teams to have enough money to bring him in. So, obviously, he'd be like number one. More realistically, though, Chris Godwin in the slot, his skill set and Tua's skill set would work well together. And Tampa's going to have a million free agents and not going to be able to re-sign everyone.
True, especially with Brady leaving, they might be going into a little bit of a rebuild.
Yeah, I saw their list today. They have like all the good players are free agents.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. But then Mike Williams as well, big-bodied young receiver who could produce.
Any opinions about Juju Smith-Schuster?
Juju Smith-Schuster, yeah, I think he's a solid player. I think he can play good in the slot. He's limited. He's not a top-tier wide receiving option. He's got his limits, but he's a quality slot wide receiver. So there you go. Do you want to re-sign him?
No, actually.
No?
Actually, I don't. I think he's gonna get too much money, and I think he should go play with an elite quarterback. So I don't want.
Not Mason Rudolph.
Not Mason Rudolph. Not Mason Rudolph. Not Mason Rudolph. He should go play for like Mahomes or something.
Oh yeah.
But any other positions with that running game?
Yeah.
Is there a ball carrier in particular?
Yeah.
Like,
So
get that guy in to fix some of this.
most likely running back. Obviously, probably for them is going to be through the draft, just because running backs don't last long. So a youthful guy's better. But Raheem Mostert from San Francisco's on the market. McDaniel loves him. He'd come cheap, but he's cheap because he gets hurt every single year.
He's also super quick though.
He is. He's one of the fastest players. In his career, he's got some of the best yard per carry averages in the league. You just can't rely on him to be healthy for more than 4 games. So it's a gamble to trust him to be your number one guy.
True. Anybody else who you would say along those, or are you 100% probably the draft? I'd probably go to the draft just because it's like you can find a 3rd round guy in the draft who shows up and it's just as awesome.
Exactly. Like
So,
Alvin Kamara came out of the 4th round.
Yeah.
Guys like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor, yeah.
Henry was a 1. Saquon was a 1. Najee Harris was
He's a 1.
Chubb was
Chuba?
Chubb.
Oh, Nick Chubb, yeah.
Yes.
He's probably a 2nd rounder.
I think
probably.
Chubb was a 2nd rounder. But regardless, you can get James Conner.
Yeah.
You can get him in the
James
4th.
Conner is on the market.
Yes, you could also go get him, but
Yeah.
I think like that production might not be sustainable. Just
I think
because
so too.
I think he was very, very touchdown reliant.
He was. I think Arizona's not going to want to get rid of him either.
So, pick situation.
Yeah.
You traded your own pick in the Jalen Waddle trade, but you have the Niners pick. So yay, we get to talk about who you want in the draft.
Yeah.
So aside from those, you have regular picks.
Yeah.
You know, like your classic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think you guys have 2 4s.
2
But
yeah.
regardless, that's still pretty normal.
Yeah.
Like, it's not one of those things where I have to point out that you have like 3 first round picks or something. Remember with the Jets, it was like, so how do you feel about fleecing the hell out of Seattle? It's like pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Pretty good. But I would say like that was definitely, the situation. It's pretty normal.
Yeah.
So is it the same positions as free agents?
Pretty much, yeah. O-line, wide receiver, running back, and then obviously depth, defensive depth probably, because especially on a defensive team, you can never have enough quality guys.
I would definitely agree. It's
Yeah.
like the more depth you can have, but also like getting those early picks early is definitely an important thing. So a couple of years ago, let's go back. You guys decided to just blow everything up.
Yeah.
Blow it all sky high. You guys made 3 big kind of trades during that time period. So I just want to kind of discuss them and your opinions on them. The first one was the Timeful Trade.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys got so much for Laramie Tunsil.
Yes.
As a whole, I mean, he was a very, very good player, but I feel like you guys got so much from him. Is that how you pretty much feel?
I mean, he's a great, Pro Bowl offensive tackle probably, but realistically, was he maybe borderline top 10 tackle in the league? And
I'd go higher than that.
Higher than that.
I'd say 5.
Around 5, yeah. But that they traded, 3 first-round picks in a couple seconds?
Yeah, then you guys, flipped some of the stuff that you guys got from that.
We did.
Get even more picks.
To be fair, whoever wins the trade, it depends on what the players the Dolphins draft to, which hasn't turned out great, but from a straight picks for player standpoint, they got a good deal out of that.
So the next trade was Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
What did you think? You guys traded away Tannehill, and I wouldn't say he's thrived in Tennessee, but I'd say he's been good in Tennessee. Yeah. He did lead them to the 1 seed this year. Is there regret from trading away Tannehill?
No, that's something that had to be done. We'd had him for years, and he had the potential. He could he never was consistent, which is something he's found in Tennessee. He's been more consistent, but he was at a point with Miami where he was just spinning the tires, and that wasn't going anywhere more forward.
So the other one was the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade.
Yeah.
I would like to bring that up.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like personally, the Steelers won that trade.
Yeah.
But what I will say about that is I wouldn't be mad because you guys got a first-round pick in exchange for somebody who didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Like, that was a definite factor behind the Fitzpatrick trade.
Yeah.
Was Minka did not want to land Miami. And he wasn't as good in Miami, whether that's because Pittsburgh utilized him better versus how he was utilized in Miami. Also, you would also like to see about Pittsburgh's going to extend him. And that's when, like, the full conversation comes in about how Fitzpatrick keeps on playing. Right now, I consider the trade a little bit of an L.
Yeah.
But what are your opinions about it?
I would agree. Like, from that standpoint, you know, you're trading a guy who was your first round pick the year before for a first round pick, which ended up being late in the first round because Minka single-handedly won Pittsburgh a couple of those games, knocked down the draft pick.
Don't forget about T.J. Watt.
Yes, and
Don't forget about T.J. Watt.
A couple, Minka Fitzpatrick, what did he have, like three pick sixes that year?
He had like 6 interceptions, 3 pick sixes.
Yeah, no.
Like 3 fumble sixes or something.
Yeah. He's a great player. But if he doesn't want to be there, you know, and they're trying to switch the culture around from being a losing culture to Flores is coming in. He wants it to be a winning culture. So if you don't want to be there, get as much value as you can get, I suppose.
That's kind of on you. I mean, like even like basketball, it's like if a player doesn't want to be there, you won't get as much value as maybe you should. But here comes the big question.
Yes.
Is this team a playoff team next year?
I think they should be. They could be. They could not. Like, there's a chance either way, but they should be. They've been close these last 2 years. It's a disappointment if they don't.
That would make sense. So you're like the expectation is
Yeah.
left. I think that they can. It's possible.
Yeah.
But I'm not putting money on it.
Yeah.
I would not go to Vegas and bet on the Miami Dolphins being in the playoffs.
And I would not blame you for that.
I think elite quarterback play is an issue.
Yes.
I think this is a hard division because I think Buffalo is great.
Yes.
New England is great. And the Jets are getting better.
Maybe.
Getting better. I don't know. All the Jets fans way out
Do
of
the
here.
Jets ever get better?
Well, I think they actually are getting better. Just because, like, they're finally getting young and embracing a new culture shift. So I guess there's a little bit of respect to the Jets there. As much respect to the Jets as you're willing to give.
Yeah.
But I think it's possible, but I'm not putting money on it. Just because, like, you know.
Yeah.
Also, the elite quarterbacks play the AFC. I mean, you have Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, and then
Lamar. Kind of Lamar. And then, I mean, you got, like, Derek Carr, Mac Jones. Like, guys who aren't, like, elite, but they're in a good spot.
But, like, they're pretty good. Yeah, no, exactly. I would agree with that. I would also say, like, my other guy would be, I'm trying to think, is there anybody else in the AFC who it's like, I mean...
Baker Mayfield?
No. No. Baker Mayfield is the furthest thing. Actually, I think Baker can get better next year.
Yeah.
And continue to play better. I mean, you're still gonna have the Titans.
Yeah.
The Colts are hoping to do something.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like, we're filming this in Indianapolis, so shout out Indianapolis. The Colts are hoping to do things.
Yeah.
But we don't know what's going to go on with that. But it's like, there are a lot of really, really good teams in the NFC.
There are.
And then I don't count Pittsburgh out for defense. But
I wouldn't either. I think they're in a really similar spot, I would say.
Yeah.
They're in a similar spot to Miami.
So it's like, I wouldn't count them out. But
yeah.
I think that's kind of where you could say it's possible, but it's not probable.
Yeah.
Okay, ceilings and floors. Let's go at it. So we both have the same floor.
Yeah.
You want to say it?
6-11. Yeah.
That's our reasons are both different. I said Mike McDaniel seems like a nerdy guy. Maybe he's not that good of a coach. It turns out, and he's good as an X and O's guy. Maybe he's just not that good of a coach.
Yeah.
and maybe Tua literally regresses into a pumpkin.
Yeah.
And then at that point, the defense is forced to sit up and carry this team to 6 wins.
Yeah.
Your reason is a little bit different.
I think, well, going from the defense has been elite with Flores. If Flores is the guy behind that, and the defense could fall apart now that he's gone. I don't think it should. The defensive coordinator stayed the same. He called plays the last 2 years. So, but there's a chance that Flores is the guy that held that defense together. And if it gets worse, they're in trouble. They really are. The offense could also, if the offense doesn't get better, they're not going to be good. And that's just kind of where it's at.
Okay, so let's go ceiling. So
Yeah.
I personally, I'm going to ask you for your ceiling first.
Okay. I think a best case scenario with Tua as their quarterback, they could 12-5, 13-4, which I think that could be if their defense stays elite, if they can just improve the offense, give Tua more time, give him a running game. Those are the two big issues is that there's no rushing yards and there's no protection, so he doesn't have time to do anything. And that could give him a better chance to win games. And I still think the defense is the one who carries him to most of those wins, though.
Okay, so I have 2 different ceilings. My first one is the 13-4 one that you mentioned. I think that's like, if they're able to get an elite quarterback in there with that defense and with a good draft, you can, and good free agency, you could talk a 13-4 number 1 seed in the AFC team. I don't think that that's possible, but if the Dolphins were the number 1, I think it is possible. They get everything right. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC next year. Now let's discuss Tua. I think Tua, assuming that it's not Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, the ceiling is 11-6.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's a playoff team.
Yeah.
I think that's a good playoff team. Maybe a playoff team that you don't necessarily, you're not like begging to play. Maybe like a Colts, Phillip Rivers, 6 seed type of playoff team. So that's what I would definitely say about that. What are your thoughts on that?
About that ceiling for him?
Yes.
I don't think that's a bad decision. They have a lot to prove. I'm probably biased as a Dolphins fan, and I think I'm just kind of hoping for the best. But from an unbiased perspective, that's probably a pretty good representation, to be honest.
So, the next question: what do you think is actually going to happen?
I think, again, it might be biased a little bit. I think 11-6 is realistic, and that's something we could do. I think with an improved offense, a dominant defense, because Tua wins games and he has, and they haven't gotten over the hump yet. They went 10-7 last year, so I would say they add one more win, go 11-6, and make the playoffs.
I'm gonna go 8-9, 9-8. They're either gonna be that team that misses it in the final week or makes it in the final week. I think you're going to have that Week 18 stress fest.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if you've ever had to have a Week 18, Week 17 stress fest before.
Always.
Those are not fun.
Yeah.
Where it's like, are we going to get in? Maybe. I don't know. And then it's like, these things need to happen for us to get in. That's what I see 100% out of Miami. I see Miami on the cusp of getting in. They could get in. They could not get in. Maybe you make the 7 seed or the 6 seed.
Yeah.
But maybe you're the 8 or the 9 seed and you're out. That's completely what I see with Miami next year. With that is the end of this episode of the Forthefans Podcast. This is Brody McGowan, and I'm here and saying thank you to have my good friend Cody Klungseth on here. If you would like to possibly be on this show, we would love to have you on here to talk about any of your passions. We'd say anything from sports to Rubik's Cubes. So with that, what I would say is if you want that, then all you have to do is go onto our Instagram page and go into our highlights, where you can then go from our highlights into a form which will let you fill out the overall information that you would need. It is like 4 simple questions, and that will help you get in. and possibly come and talk with me on the show. The other thing that I would like to say is that we love having you guys on here, whoever, Cody or David or Ryan Oldfield or Ryan Patterson or Matt Byrne or whoever. We love having anybody who wants to come on here and talk about what they like to say. That's a thing that we just love to have on here. This is the beginning of our journey, and we just love having you guys along with it. And the final conversation that I would like to have at this point is that we recently started a TikTok, which we have linked in our YouTube page as well. No, I mean, never mind. We have that linked in our Instagram page. So if you want to go onto our TikTok, we post like highlights from these videos on there. So if you were interested in that, we recently have that started up. With that, Cody, I'd just like to say we love having you on here.
Right.
Good luck to your Dolphins next year.
Thank you. Good luck to your Steelers
The
too.
Jets fans did not like that I said that.
No.